1884, Mark Twain introduced us to a swindler claiming to be the lost King of France. He was a satirical reflection of a 19th century epidemic. Over 100 men from the American frontier to the courts of Europe claimed to be the missing Dauphin. In an era of desperate hope, being the lost prince was the ultimate lucrative con. But before the scams, there was the child, Louis Charles, heir to the French throne. He began life in the gold-leafed halls of Versailles, but the revolution was a surgical strike against the monarchy. First, his father, the king, was taken to the guillotine. Then his mother, Marie Antoinette, followed. Paris was in a fever of blood and chaos, and the 10-year-old prince was left alone in the dark. Separated from his parents, the boy was handed over to a cobbler named Antoine Simon for indoctrination. Through systematic neglect and abuse, the revolutionary government tried to break the royal out of the young heir. In 1795, Louis Charles died of tuberculosis in a filthy cell, setting the stage for a 200-year mystery. While the city outside remained in post-revolutionary chaos, 4 surgeons entered the prison to verify the death. Amidst the stench of the cell, Dr. Philippe Jean Peveton performed a secret act of preservation. Under the silent gaze of his colleagues, he secreted the child's heart in a handkerchief and smuggled it out of the Temple prison. He was stealing the only part of the boy that wouldn't be lost to the mud of a mass grave. The rumors started instantly. In the candlelit courts of London and Vienna, the elite whispered about a switch. They couldn't believe a Bourbon heir was dumped in a common pit at St. Marguerite while his executed parents lay at the Madeleine. Many believed the heir had been spirited away, following which, pretenders to the French throne began to pop up all over Europe and North America. Among 100 pretenders, one man stood above the rest: Karl Wilhelm Naundorff. He wasn't a crude swindler like Twain's king. He was a Prussian clockmaker with an uncanny knowledge of the Bourbon court. Naundorff didn't just claim the name, he convinced the Dauphin's own former nurse and members of the royal household that he was the boy who escaped the Temple prison. Naundorff took a stolen identity to his deathbed. But if Naundorff was the king, whose heart was in the jar? For 2 centuries, that heart followed a perilous chain of custody. Peloton kept the relic in a jar of spirits on his mantelpiece. He watched as the alcohol slowly evaporated, leaving the heart desiccated and stone-like, a transformation that inadvertently preserved the genetic code within. By 1828, Peloton knew his time was short. He sought a sanctuary that could survive the shifting political winds of France. He delivered the heart to the Archbishop of Paris to be held until a proper royal burial could be arranged. But in 1830, the 3 glorious days of the July Revolution turned Paris into a battlefield. A revolutionary mob plundered the Archbishop's quarters. Amidst the violence, the glass jar was smashed. The royal heart was cast onto the floor, hidden among the debris and broken glass. It was only by chance that a printer named Liscrode recognized the odd mummified object, pulled it from the ruins, and returned it to the Archbishop's family. The heart was eventually returned to the son of the man who stole it, Philippe Gabriel Peloton. Realizing that the relic was a political lightning rod in France, the Peloton family entrusted it to the Bourbon-Parma branch, the Spanish cousins of the lost Dauphin. It remained with the Bourbons in exile for decades, crossing borders and surviving world wars, until it was finally brought back to France in 1975. Through centuries of riots, exile, and neglect, the heart held a secret. It was a silent witness waiting for a science that didn't yet exist. In 1999, the science arrived. Forensic geneticists compared mitochondrial DNA from the desiccated heart to a lock of hair belonging to Marie Antoinette. The results were final. The heart in the jar matched the Habsburg bloodline. The boy in the temple was the prince. The scams, the gossip, and the pretenders were finally silenced by a single strand of genetic truth. The DNA verdict of 1999 didn't just solve a mystery, it exposed fraud and a profound historical irony. To this day, Karl Wilhelm Naundorff remains interred in the Netherlands under an ornate monument that acknowledges his fraudulent royal provenance. Even in death, the clockmaker clings to a crown that was never his, protected by a headstone that lies to every visitor who passes by. Meanwhile, the boy who actually bore the title of Louis XVII remains physically lost, his body unidentified in the silent earth of a mass grave at Sainte Marguerite. But history has a way of correcting its own records. On June 8, 2004, over 2 centuries after it was smuggled out of a prison tower in a surgeon's pocket, the mummified heart of Louis Charles was finally brought to the Royal Basilica of Saint-Denis. It was placed in a small niche among the grand tombs of the Bourbon monarchs, the parents he was torn from, and ancestors he never knew. It is a tiny relic, smaller than a fist, yet it carries the full weight of a stolen legacy. Subscribe to Open the Vault for more forgotten truths.